At least 50 people were killed after a train derailed in a tunnel north of Hualien in Taiwan. It's Taiwan's worst rail disaster in at least 4 decades.
A train in Taiwan has derailed inside a tunnel, killing dozens of people. The train had been travelling from Taipei to Taitung when it apparently hit a truck and came off the rails north of Hualien. Images of the crash scene show carriages inside the tunnel ripped apart from the impact. Taiwan's fire department said there had been some 350 people on board the train. Many of them were reported to have been standing because it was so full. More than 80 people have been evacuated from the first 4 carriages, but the others are harder to reach. The accident happened at the start of the long weekend. The last major train derailment in Taiwan was in 2018, which left 18 people dead.
Hong Kong's clampdown on activists continues. A court there convicted 7 of the city's leading pro-democracy advocates, including media tycoon Jimmy Lai.
A Hong Kong court has found 7 prominent Democrats guilty of unauthorised assembly. The case is seen as the latest crackdown by China on its freest city after the imposition of a sweeping national security law last year. The 82-year-old barrister Martin Lee and media tycoon Jimmy Lai were among the defendants. Lee helped launch Hong Kong's largest opposition Democratic Party in the 1990s and is often referred to as the city's father of democracy. Another defendant, pro-democracy activist Lee Chuk-yun, spoke to reporters outside the court.
In this day of reckoning, the political suppression is equally to all those who have taken part in the protest movement, including no matter whether you are the peaceful non-violence group or the braver, you are all caught under this political suppression wave.
The court case relates to a peaceful demonstration held on August the 18th in 2019, which grew into an unauthorised march as numbers swelled into the hundreds of thousands. During the trial, defence lawyers argued that freedom of assembly is a constitutional right in Hong Kong. But the district court judge said that that right was not absolute and argued that restrictions are imposed to preserve public safety and order. Sentencing will come later, with some legal experts expecting jail terms of 12 to 18 months. The maximum possible sentence is 5 years.
American company Boeing is urging the United States government to keep human rights separate from trade relations with China. Its CEO says it can't afford to be locked out of the Chinese market. NTD's Patrick Hayden reports.
Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun is urging the US to separate its human rights disputes with China with its trade relations. He says Boeing should be left out of bilateral disputes and warned it could be locked out of the China market. Boeing and its European rival Airbus each sell about a quarter of their jetliners to China, which is now the world's largest domestic travel market. China has expressed concerns about Boeing's 737 MAX, which was grounded for nearly 2 years after 2 fatal crashes. It was approved to fly again in November, but China has said it will take a step-by-step approach to approving the jet. Western sources say concerns are growing that Beijing could be leveraging the approval process in a diplomatic standoff with Washington. Calhoun said Boeing cannot afford to be locked out of the Chinese market. He said its competitor Airbus will jump right in. Beijing faces tension with the West over its treatment of Uyghurs in Xinjiang, where more than 1 million people are held in internment camps. China rejects the allegation and has warned foreign companies not to step into politics. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
The Chinese regime is claiming that NASA has hurt the feelings of 1.4 billion Chinese people. The reason? A drop-down box on NASA's website listed Taiwan as a country. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more.
NASA's website lets people send their names to Mars on a future flight. Those interested can fill in their name, mailing code, and select a country of origin on the sign-up page. On Monday, Chinese state media questioned why Taiwan appeared on the list of countries. A Beijing agency urged NASA to correct what it calls its mistake as soon as possible. NASA has not responded to Bloomberg's request for comment. The CCP has long claimed Taiwan as its own territory. It forbids foreign countries from establishing diplomatic ties with both Taipei and Beijing, even though Taiwan has its own constitution, military, and currency. The Chinese regime often gets into conflicts with foreign companies over how they classify Taiwan. In 2018, U.S. airlines stopped listing Taiwan as a country following pressure from Beijing. Marriott International had its website briefly blocked in China because it listed Taiwan as a country in a survey.
A special wine tasting in France features a taste out of this world. 12 bottles of Bordeaux that spent a year in space have returned to Earth, tasting, smelling, and looking different than bottles that stayed on the ground.
Houston on 2.
The Institute for Wine and Vine Research in Bordeaux is hosting a wine tasting like no other, and it's all thanks to the SpaceX Dragon cargo capsule. The spacecraft undocked from the International Space Station in January and headed back to Earth with some precious cargo. It was carrying 12 bottles of Bordeaux wine and 320 snippets of Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon grapevines. They had been sent into space a year earlier to determine how they would develop outside the Earth's atmosphere.
The main reason going to space was, in fact, to see how the aging process is working and how we can influence the aging process.
Now it's time to taste it. 12 lucky wine connoisseurs are blind tasting one of the space-traveled bottles, alongside a bottle from the same vintage that had stayed on Earth. The Celestial Vino goes for about $6,000 a bottle. But can the experts spot the difference between Earth wine and space wine? Jane Anson, wine expert and writer for The Decanter, says she can.
So both were absolutely gorgeous, but again, following the colour, the one that had remained on Earth for me was still a little bit more closed, a bit more tannic, a bit younger, and the one that had been up into space, the tannins had softened, the more floral aromatics came out.
Preliminary results from the tasting released on Wednesday showed differences in color, taste, and aroma between the space wine and the Earth wine. Understanding how gravity and oxygen affect the aging process could allow producers to age fine wines more quickly. The vine snippets not only all survived the journey, but also grew faster than vines on Earth, despite limited light and water. Understanding how plants develop outside of Earth's atmosphere could pave the way for vine growing and winemaking in space. But it also has the potential to improve agricultural practices on Earth. Scientists will be analyzing the wine and vines in more detail over the next few months.
The Louvre Museum in Paris is using its pandemic-driven closure to its advantage. It's working to reorganize a secret collection of masterpieces that rarely go on general display.
Paris's Louvre Museum normally welcomes 10 million visitors a year. Although its halls are closed for now, the Mona Lisa still smiles over the galleries, and great masterpieces hang from the walls. But there's a much less well-known treasure trove of works here, if you know where to look. Xavier Salmon is the director of the museum's graphic arts department. It's a library which stores drawings, pastels, and miniature works, preserved so they last for years to come.
It's extremely sad that due to the pandemic, we are no longer able to welcome our usual visitors. But the lucky thing is that the whole collection is online.
Since the 17th century, the Louvre has accumulated a collection of 250,000 graphic arts that date from the 9th century to the mid-1800s. But they're not on permanent display. The department rotates just a few samples of the work every 4 months. Before the pandemic, the Graphic Arts Department would welcome about 800 people each year by appointment. Salmon says there are ways visitors can get ready for when this library is able to reopen.
Those who want to prepare for their visit have time to go on our database, look at the drawings with the photos and the information, and then once they're preparing their trip to Paris, they can eventually come here and see the drawings.
In the meantime, he's used the closure to reorganize and redistribute the works in an overhaul not possible before the museum's closure. For now, it is unclear when the Louvre will reopen its doors.
The pandemic has been hard on those of us with an adventurous spirit, but for anyone with an adventurous appetite, one Belgian chocolatier has created a new Easter flavor with unusual ingredients.
Belgian chocolate maker Dominique Personne is known for producing unusual flavors. Some unexpected combinations include bacon and fried onions. This year he offers a special adventure to shoppers, a new taste that reminds people of nature.
So we make a juice of grass, Granny Schmidt, and to put an extra acidity on it, we use the Japanese lime, it's yuzu. And the combination of those two, it's amazing.
Persone is counting on the new flavor to promote his business ahead of Easter. His own shop is in the canal-based historic city of Bruges. Normally, Easter is one of the busiest seasons for local tourism. But now the pandemic and travel bans have kept foreign visitors away.
Here in Bruges, we're very known for chocolate. I think we have more than 60 chocolate shops in town. Most of them are closed because they're really focused on tourism. For us, tourists are very important too, but thanks God we have a lot of local customers. And I think 50% of our customers are local customers. But of course, it's not like a normal year. Eh?
Persone believes chocolate contains a mood-lifting ingredient that counters depression. For his customers, chocolate brings joy and hope to Easter reunions during the gloomy lockdown.
Now I'm gonna buy something for me and my girlfriend because with Corona we're not seeing much of our friends. It's very hard and that makes life a little bit better. So I would say chocolate makes life a bit better.
Belgium is facing a third wave of infections and tighter contact restrictions. Stores are open only by appointment. Non-essential travel is banned over the holiday.
Members of the Royal Opera Chorus reunite for the first time in a year, but the location for their reunion and rehearsal is a little bit unexpected.
Wrapped up in coats and with London's famous landmarks behind them, the 25 singers are back doing what they love most. They're gathered on the rooftop of the Royal Opera House in London's Covent Garden. It's a bit windy, but the view is incomparable.
It's been a really rough year, and what this surrounding does, it suggests hope, it suggests the future, it suggests height, and it suggests ambition, and those are all of the things that we should be aspiring to at the Royal Opera House.
As the country slowly emerges from lockdown, the venue last week announced early plans for this season, its first full season since 2019.
It's only, about the springtime and celebrating the coming out of lockdown, and luckily we got a little bit of sun, and it's about greeting, Easter time and greeting the world, after lockdown.
The singers were furloughed during lockdown. For most of them, it's their first time to sing together for over a year.
We really do look after each other, and just looking forward to seeing, the standing ovations when the audiences are back. I know they need it just as much as we do, and it's just going to mean so much more to everybody once we are back and able to make music.
The Royal Opera Chorus will stream Mozart's The Magic Flute on its website on Good Friday. It will welcome back audiences from the 17th of May with some new productions.
That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees.